Right then, welcome everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you all here for this explainer. Grab your notebooks, get yourselves a coffee, and settle in, because today we are embarking on a rather extraordinary intellectual journey. Now, you might be sitting there wondering why a rigorous, university-level deconstruction of ancient philosophical texts actually matters to you today. Well, think about it. If you have ever felt completely overwhelmed by the constant digital noise, the endless social media matrix, or quite frankly, just the sheer chaotic overload of modern uni life, you are probably craving something solid. You're looking for the absolute underlying source code, and that is exactly what we're going to decode today, the ancient psychological blueprint of human existence known as the Abhidhamma. So, if you've ever wanted to look under the bonnet of the universe and see the raw mechanics of how consciousness actually operates, well, you are in exactly the right place.
But before we get stuck into our proper analysis, I want you to ask yourself a rather confronting question. Look around you right now. Think about your phone, your mates, the interpersonal drama of your everyday life. Is your reality just a conventional illusion? What if absolutely everything you perceive every single day is merely a figurative embellishment, a useful everyday story that is actually masking a highly technical, profoundly mechanical truth? I mean, what if your entire life is just a very colorful, surface-level user interface, and today we are going to learn how to read the actual programming language running silently behind it?
Okay, let's dive right into this syllabus. Today we're going to cover 1. The two styles of teaching, 2. The historical authenticity debate, 3. A deep psychological blueprint, and finally, 4. Mind, matter, and nirvana. Starting off with Section 1, the two styles of teaching. You see, the Buddha wasn't just a philosopher. He was an incredibly strategic, intuitive teacher. He knew instinctively that you simply cannot speak to a layman who's just seeking a bit of comfort the exact same way you'd speak to a highly trained intellectual looking for absolute, unvarnished truth. The messaging had to be entirely tailored. So on the left side of our framework, we have the suttas. These are the popular discourses, taught in a discursive style with similes, anecdotes, and conventional truths. For instance, in conventional truth you might say, I am walking to the shops. It's practically useful, isn't it? Think of the suttas as a lively, comforting chat over a pint at your local pub. But on the right side, we have the Abhidhamma. This is the absolute truth, the Paramatthasaka. It uses brutally precise technical language. In absolute truth, there is no I walking to the shops. There's literally only a rapid succession of microscopic physical movements and arising mental intentions. If the suttas are a chat at the pub, the Abhidhamma is a rigorously peer-reviewed Cambridge dissertation meant for the absolute sharpest minds.
To truly grasp how radical this shift is, consider this brilliant insight from the great commentator Buddhaghosa. He notes that the prefix abhi means special or supplementary. It is doctrine pure and simple, without any embellishments by admixture of literary grace, personalities, similes, or anecdotes. I want you to just think about how incredibly bold that is for an ancient text. It is the raw, unembellished data of reality. All the comforting storytelling, the heroes, the villains, it has all been ruthlessly, clinically stripped away to leave you with only the absolute, unsentimental mechanics of existence.
Moving swiftly on to Section 2, the historical authenticity debate.
Now, because the Abhidhamma reads much more like a dense scientific manual than a traditional sermon, some modern scholars have naturally cast doubts on its origins, suggesting it might just be a later invention. But let's look at how traditional commentators counter this by outlining this vast timeline of dual origins. First, the seed was planted during the Bodhisattva's first aspiration, the Mahapranidhana, which allegedly matured over 550 births. Think of that as 550 iterations of rigorously beta-testing the human condition. Then comes the internal realization, the Adhigama Nidana, comprehended fully upon enlightenment. But fascinatingly, the tradition states this code was so incredibly dense, he didn't even preach it to humans first. He preached it externally in the Tavitimsa heaven to celestial beings and his reincarnated mother, essentially because the average human mind simply lacked the processing power to handle the sheer density of the data. Finally, we reach historical reality on Earth, where scholarly bhikshus at the Third Council systematically organized the teachings. They began by compiling a Matika, which is essentially a master glossary or an index matrix of titles, which they later expanded into the sprawling treatises we have today.
Ultimately, modern academics generally reach quite a balanced consensus here. While the exact phraseology and formatting might have been compiled and edited by a school of scholarly monks over centuries, the philosophical architecture itself is absolutely the authentic, distilled essence of the Buddhist teaching.
It was systematically produced in direct response to a highly perceptive, vibrant Buddhist intelligentsia who were actively seeking rigorous debate and desperately required a highly structured code to do so. So what exactly were these brilliant minds so eager to debate? Let's take a look at the code itself.
Which brings us neatly to Section 3, a deep psychological blueprint.
Right. Having settled the historical methodology, let's slow right down now. We are transitioning into the absolute core of our session today, the rigorous internal mechanics of the mind. Central to this blueprint is the definition of Paramatta Dhamma, which translates to ultimate reality. This is a technical classification of phenomena that encompasses everything from empirical reality all the way to transcendental realism. If conventional reality is the beautiful front-end user interface of a website, the images, the flashy text, the buttons you click, then Paramatta Dhamma is the raw HTML and CSS backend code. It is completely stripped of all loose or unscientific terms. In this system, technical jargon is exact and entirely impersonal. The mind is strictly denoted by the term citta. It is never interchangeable with other loose synonyms. The precision here is mathematically strict.
Now, what's really interesting here is the number 17. The Abhidhamma doesn't just categorize phenomena. It microanalyzes the very fabric of time in relation to human cognitive activity. It claims that a single practical moment of cognitive awareness, from the barest initial vibration of a stimulus to the final registration of it in your brain, is made up exactly 17 microscopic thought moments. Imagine the frame rate of a high-end video game, shooting at thousands of frames per second. The Abhidhamma is stating that what you perceive as one smooth, continuous thought is actually 17 discrete, rapid-fire micro-events clicking by. It is an astonishingly granular, high-definition view of consciousness that predates modern neuroscience by literally millennia.
And finally, Section 4, Mind, Matter, and Nirvana.
Prepare yourselves because we are about to look at the absolute categorical breakdown of literally everything that exists in your universe. According to Theravada Buddhism, the absolute totality of life is composed of just 4 ultimate realities broken down into exactly 82 distinct categories. First up, we have one category for mind, or citta, which is just the sheer, bare awareness of an object. Then we have 52 mental coefficients, or cetasikas. These are the factors that color the mind, things like contact, feeling, perception, but also those ethical variables like greed, hatred, ignorance, or conversely, mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. Next, we have 28 forms of matter or rupa. This includes the 4 great essentials, solidity, fluidity, temperature, and motion, along with all their derivative material phenomena. And finally, one unconditioned ultimate reality, nirvana. Think of these 82 components exactly like the nuts, bolts, and gears of a classic British Land Rover. You've got the engine block, the valves, the chassis. By meticulously assembling these specific, quantifiable components, the 52 mental gears and the 28 physical bolts, you build the entire, staggeringly complex vehicle of human experience. Every single emotion you feel, every physical text message you send is just a temporary configuration of these 82 pieces, nothing more, nothing less.
To summarize the overarching themes of this extraordinary text, we see a few incredibly advanced core principles. First, it asserts that the proper study of man isn't the external world at all, but the meticulous study of his own mind, his citta. Second, it introduces truly groundbreaking concepts like bhavanga. Think of bhavanga as the background RAM on your smartphone. When your phone screen is locked and completely vacant, the operating system is still running a background life continuum to keep the device active, right? Well, that is the bhavanga operating beneath your conscious awareness. Third, through the Pathana, it provides an exhaustively comprehensive theory of causality and relativity. It maps out how every single one of those 82 components interacts via a complex, multi-layered algorithmic code of conditions. And finally, it represents a completely harmonious integration of ethics, psychology, and religion. This isn't just dry, speculative philosophy, you see. It is a rigorous moral framework based entirely on intense, clinical psychological analysis.
Which leaves us with this final, rather provocative thought to chew on today. If your entire reality, your deepest loves, your modern anxieties, your grandest unifying ambitions, and the very screen you're looking at right now is ultimately just 82 components clicking together in rapid, 17-thought moment succession, who or what is actually in the driver's seat of that Land Rover? Is there a driver at all, or just the brilliant illusion of one created by the code? It certainly makes you question your own perception, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I highly encourage you to keep questioning the blueprint. See you next time.